So we go up to the gate though, and
Right.
now we're all there and we're like kind of laughing about it. Like, oh God, we barely made it. Thank
Right.
God we're here. And by the way, we knew we had time to go to the bathroom because they were boarding, right?
Right.
So
And
we
were,
get
like,
up to the
group
front and now they've called us and
Right.
they're like, they literally say in these exact words, 2 of you are not going to be able to go on to this flight. Hey guys, welcome back to the Push Podcast. I'm Janelle Copeland.
And I'm Edward, just back from Italy, Copeland.
Dark as hell, Copeland. I love your tan.
Thank you.
The whole house, the whole family is really tan right now. So
For sure.
I like the summertime. I like to be tan.
Yeah, I don't know if people can see. I got a nice little shade going right now.
Yeah. So listen, we took a trip to Italy. It was supposed to be a 2-week dream vacation. We've got 2 kids home from college. And we always try to have these amazing family vacations because, you know, we're trying to create memories and moments that will last forever with our kids. And so we spend a ton of money on things like this. We make sacrifices throughout the year. And once we got a taste of international travel, we were like, okay, we have to make major sacrifices. And this is the only thing that matters to us because so many reasons. But one is like being exposed to culture, things outside of the norm, seeing how other people live, and just experiencing what the world has to offer, right?
Yeah, I think that early on, when the kids were younger, we didn't do a lot of travel. Like we didn't do any travel really. I mean,
I don't think you should travel with your kids internationally and spend this kind of money until they're over 10.
Right. And we just weren't financially ready for that kind
But
of.
even if you are,
even
I'm
if you
telling
are-
you, like as parents who are a little further like behind or further past you, don't travel and waste this kind of money until your kids are at least 10. They won't remember it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that some people, I do notice that there's a lot of people that we saw with young kids that were traveling, and I'm curious what the benefits are for them. Like
It
when
looks like a disaster. Literally.
They look like they're not
They
having a
hate
good time.
the plane ride.
Right.
The parents don't look like they're enjoying it. You can't relax. I know there are a ton of benefits. Your kids should grow up with culture and be around other people. I'm not saying that that's not true, but I'm saying if you're a family like us that was on a budget, that's very conscious of where our dollars go, you know, traveling, my kids don't even remember the cool lunches I made for them in elementary school. So I'm really glad I didn't waste money taking them to Italy when they were kids.
Yeah. And I do think that there may be, I think there's some pros and cons.
Yeah.
I think the pro may be you learn young how to travel, like what it means to travel, how to adapt to different surroundings.
Agree.
And so I think that gives you some benefits. But here's the thing, like a 2-year-old traveling across the
On
country
an 11-hour flight, don't do
not the
it.
thing to do. Maybe around 6, 7, 8. I think that you probably could like get some appreciation from that because we do see some people who, you know, online they travel with their kids and their kids seem to have a really good time. They're younger than 10, so I think that there's some benefits. But I do think that majority of what they're going to remember is going to be after 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what do the kids call it? They call it a core memory.
yeah. Well, this is going to be a core memory trip. So we're going to share it with you guys. We booked this 2-week trip. The first week of the trip was supposed to be in Sicily with our friends, Joe and Naima and Jaden, who we actually met last year in Greece on vacation when that whole vacation went awry as well.
Right.
So we met this great family. They're from New York. And we just decided, you know what, let's vacation the following year with each other and get to know each other. And so we spent the last year kind of getting to know them. We stayed with them in New York when we were looking at colleges for Jordan. And then we just decided to book a villa in Sicily for 7 days and split that and have fun. And then we were moving on for the second week to go to the Amalfi Coast and then spend the last 3 days in Rome. So everything has been booked for many months.
Right.
We've talked to you before about using our American Express and racking up travel points. So we were excited to do that. And so, yeah, we had this trip booked. We were excited, ready. And let me just tell you, travel internationally or going on a vacation, like I have been telling you lately, I just want to go with nothing. I want to go with nothing because we like to kind of shop around anyways. but I hate the anxiety of packing and like making sure everyone has everything that they need. And so this time around, we started really early with the packing.
Yep.
I ordered a bunch of packing cubes.
Yep.
We got new
We were going to go
luggage.
like vets.
Yeah.
Like, this was not going to be some amateur hour. This was like,
Yeah.
hey, we know how to pack for international travel.
We did a good job. We eliminated lots of options, and I think we packed really, really well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Better than many years in the past.
Right. So now it's time, the day of travel. We leave on Friday. What was that? Like August 30th or something?
No, we left on July 22nd.
Oh, okay. Well, hi.
Yes.
Anyways, we leave on a Friday. Am I right? We take an Uber to the airport. We live in LA, but we decided to fly out of Ontario.
Right.
And then return at LAX, which was fine. The flights were already confirmed, pre-checked in, whatever. So we take an Uber, and all of a sudden we get to the Ontario airport and it's worse than LAX. It's like busier than ever before in history.
Yeah.
So we go to the ticketing counter. She checks us in. We weigh our bags. And my bag was 2 pounds over. So I tossed something to Jordan. She threw it in hers. We get our boarding passes. And now I have to go stand in this ridiculously long line.
Right.
And someone says, hey, we can save you all this time if you want to sign up for Clear. So that was the first thing. We sign up for Clear, ready to go. Whole family gets loaded in. We go straight up to TSA. We get on the plane, and the flight's delayed an hour.
Can I just make sure you guys, there's some key points. So make sure you remember that we talked about Clear, because that will come back around at some point. And when we the other part of it was we weren't able to check in online, which was
or at
not
the kiosk.
out of the ordinary, right?
For
because
international.
for international, a lot of times in COVID, there's a lot of things that have come up that you got to do at the ticketing counter. Get it. At the ticketing counter, it took longer than normal because we were standing there and the lady was having some issues, and so we finally got through. So there were some key little areas there. Yeah.
So we get on the plane and the plane's delayed for an hour.
Right.
I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
So there is a 3.5 hour flight from Ontario to Dallas. And then we started with only an hour and a half layover to run to the next plane, which was then going to take us to Heathrow, London, and then from London to Sicily. Right. So I'm just going to stop right there. That's fun fact number one. If you are internationally traveling, I know it sounds like a big bummer to have like a 3 or a 4 or a 5 hour layover. You need it. If anything happens and you only have an hour and a half layover, I think that sounds great, but it never is.
Right.
So if your flight is delayed like ours was, you find yourself really, ridden with anxiety. You pull up to the next, airport, and you're like, we gotta go. So,
and I would say that the times that we have flown international now, each time it wasn't always us, but it was another group that had a connecting flight. They had to run off the airplane. I mean, literally, the pilot's like, please stay seated if you don't have a connecting flight or if you have a long layover. So to allow these people to get off the plane. So it's not something that will go smooth. You have to anticipate that there may be a delay, a hang up of some sort that's going to happen. So giving yourself another day. So maybe when you're booking your trip, you say, let's try to leave a day earlier than normal, just so that we can have some layover, just so that we can make sure that if something goes wrong, we still got
but
time.
you need the 3 to 5 hour layover
100%.
Is my recommendation. So we started with a 1.5 hour layover, and then it got eaten up by the delay. So now we arrive in Dallas and we have to literally run to the next gate.
Like we have 45 minutes, I believe. I think it was 45 minutes before our flight was going to leave.
Well, that was before it left, not including boarding. Right. And so I don't know if you remember, but we not only had to run from like that plane to the next, but we had to get on a tram in the Dallas airport and go from terminal A to terminal D.
Right.
So, we're looking for the tram, whatever. We're running through the airport, bobbing and weaving, all 5 of us. We finally make it, and they're literally announcing our names.
Right.
Like calling the Copeland's Party of 5.
Which is the first time ever.
Right. And so we run up and we kind of we're laughing about it. We made it.
And normally I have the passports. Right, I collect everybody's passports. I just want them to be in a centralized location. I want to make sure that we're not waiting. But this particular time, everybody had their own passports, and as we like made it like you had to go to the bathroom. I think 2 other people had to go to the bathroom, and it was like me and one other girls at the counter because we heard our names. And I'm like, they're like, we need your passports. I'm like, I only have mine. I don't have like call and find out where they're at, right? And so at this point, I'm like, oh my god, then they're asking for our passport. The plane is boarding. They're letting people on, and I'm waiting for you guys to get out of the bathroom.
Right. So we go up to the gate though, and now we're all there, and we're like kind of laughing about it, like, oh God, we barely made it. Thank God we're here. And by the way, we knew we had time to go to the bathroom because they were boarding, right? So we get like up to the front, and now they've called us, and they're like, they literally say in these exact words, 2 of you are not going to be able to go on to this flight.
Yeah.
And we're like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, 2 of you have passports that are going to expire soon.
Well, this is what he said to me. He looks at me and he goes, ooh, your passports, their expiration. And I go, yeah, they don't expire till...
For 82 days.
Right, until October. And he goes, yeah, I don't know. That's not going to work. Give me a second. I don't think they're going to let you into the country. We won't be able to take this flight. And he said like that, and I go,
very calm.
What you got to be joking me. What do you mean?
Right.
And he goes, you won't be able to take this flight. 2 of you, your passports are going to expire, and you need to have 90 days from the time that you depart from the country. And I was like, I didn't know that. How are we supposed to know that? Right. And so then I'm like, I'm puzzled, and I start to look at you like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
You're in a state of disbelief.
So I said, well, there's got to be somebody that we can talk to. Like, cause I don't, it was just the way that he said it so calmly. Like, yeah, you're not gonna be able to get on.
Like, oh yeah, if you talk to someone, maybe.
Right. Right. And so I was like, okay, there's gotta be somebody we can talk to. And he goes, actually, there's not. And I go, okay, so what do you recommend? And he was like, yeah, I don't know. Your passports are supposed to be not expiring for 90 days. Some countries are 6 months. Italy is, 90 days. And I said, okay, well, we're flying from Dallas to London. What is London? And they said, well, London doesn't care. I said, okay, then let us fly to London. That's part of our ticket. And they said, well, then you become a flight risk. Like, what if you try to get into Italy? I go, well, we're not going to try. I just don't want my kids to take a 10.5-hour flight by themselves. So let us just take this flight to London if they don't have a requirement, and then we'll come right back. I just want to get them to Italy. And they were like, yeah, we can't do that. But they weren't offering any solutions or recommendations or like, hey, here's what you can do. So finally someone comes over, and I'm like, there's got to be something that you can recommend for us. And they're like, yeah, there's not. And I said, Robert, we cannot be the only people this has ever happened to in history. And he goes, no, ma'am, you're not. I said, then what advice do you have for us? What can we do if we overlooked this rule?
And he looked at you and said, most times this happens, the people don't take their flights. They don't go on their trip.
That's what he said. And I was like, okay, I get that. We're not getting on the flight. You've made that clear.
And the thing that makes that so bothersome is that if something comes up quite often, and it is something, it is not like a small thing. Like people spend thousands upon thousands of dollars to travel. As an airline or as a professional in that space, you should say, here are your options. If there are options, right? No matter what it is, whether it's going to take, a day, 2 days, a week, whatever the options are, give us the options. But I think what really was unsettling was that they were very matter of fact, and they didn't have
no
solutions, which also let us believe like there was no empathy, right? Because what comes along with empathy is like, here's something that you can try. I'm not sure if it's going to work. I really hate telling you this news, but this is what we're up against. And I get not having any like wiggle room because you're dealing with another country, right?
That's not what we wanted.
Right. Because this is the first time we've ever heard this. So part of it for us was like, is this like a policy?
Is this like a law?
Is this just like a law? Like, what is this? Right? Because this is the first time we've ever heard
And there was just no explaining.
Right.
So it just is what it is. So we stepped to the side, now we're being watched because they think like
we're going to run on the plane.
Make sure you don't let these people on the plane. So now they're hovering over us. Robert is hovering over us from British Airways.
I think they think we're going to freak out.
What made it more bothersome for me is he kept saying, well, the first ticketing agent in Ontario should have never let you on.
Right.
She should have never put you on the first flight. And I go, okay, well, she did. And here we are now in Dallas. So what are our options? Can you fly us back to LA? Right. Can you let us just go to London? Like, what options? Yeah, we don't really have any. That was what was pissing me off, right? So then I said, okay, we have to make a decision. They're getting ready to close off the aircraft. Everybody has already boarded now. And I said, okay, you got to go. Well, I started crying and I said, the girls have to go. Like, you'll be okay. You'll get to Italy. Our friends will take you. You know, we'll figure out how to get you there. Spend a couple days there and we'll figure out how to get to you. So we all start crying. You know, it's like, they kept saying, no, we're not going to leave you. We're going to go together as a family.
As everything starts to settle in and like this disbelief goes away and the reality sets in like, oh, we cannot go.
I'm like, we have to take action. We've already paid for this trip. So I said, worst case, you guys are on a sister trip and you get to live it all out because it's already planned, every single element of it. We'll try our best to get there. So they're crying now. You know, we've got like snacks packed. We've got seats picked out. Good seats, by the way.
Yeah.
And so everyone's sad and I go, get on the plane. You're going to have a sister's trip and we'll figure out how to get to you. So they get on the plane, they're crying. They take the snack bag and we just have a breakdown like in the airport. You and I watch their plane take off and all of a sudden, like they text us before they get too far and they're like, our luggage is not on the plane. What? Your luggage never made it onto the plane. Yeah. So we go up to the agent. We're like, hey, our kid's luggage wasn't put on the plane. And they said, oh, we'll put it on the next plane. Okay, sounds fine. Whatever. As long as they get it. Here's where they're going, blah, blah, blah. So that luggage, you guys, sat in the Dallas airport for 4 freaking days. Yeah. 4 days. They've been in Italy for 4 days. No luggage. It's sitting there. They lost it, say they don't know where it's at, but because we put AirTags in all of our luggage, we know that it's in Terminal D at the Dallas airport.
Which airplane, like flying, you know, in this whole process of like, you know, taking airplanes has been around for what, 50 years, right? So they've been dealing with luggage for a long time.
Like, why don't you have an AirTag system?
Like brand new? Yeah. Like the system of like tagging something and making sure it's going where the person is going should be really easy. Yeah. Like, but I don't understand why it's a problem.
Well, so that's tip number 2.
We have figured out a lot of things. Yeah. iPhones, you know, electric cars. We have figured out so many different things. We have not figured out luggage.
No. So that's tip number 2. You need to invest in $29 AirTags and tuck them into your luggage and make sure that you at least know where your luggage is for peace of mind. Right. Okay.
If you have to somehow go somewhere and get it, at least you know where it's at.
Moving on. It's 7:40 p.m. It's Friday night. We're in the Dallas airport. Our kids are on a flight to Italy.
Right. And we've got passports that do not work.
And we have passports that expire in 82 days. And the rule is in order for you to travel, it's got to be 90 days.
90 days on your return flight, right? So so you have to like take in consideration we have a 2-week vacation. They want it 90 days from there.
Right. So 7:40 p.m. on a Friday, and we say, okay, what do we do? Right. How can we get this expedited? So we start making calls. We call our travel agent. She says there are agencies, particularly in San Francisco. There should be one in Dallas. There's for sure one in LA. And there's one in New York that I know of for sure that will do same day expedited passport renewals, but you need an appointment.
Right. And so as you're like connecting with people, I'm online scouring the internet for resources. Now, mind you, when you're desperate, like this is where people can take advantage of you,
so much scamming.
And so there's so many like scams and like different things that are out there that you don't know what you're just putting money into this you know, this system of whatever that they're trying to do because you're desperate, right? And so like I almost like paid for something that was not going to work, right? And then we eventually, you know, had to find a solution.
Yeah. And then if you just look it up on Google, it's like, oh, at the Dallas Library, which is open until 8 p.m., you can go to the Dallas Library and you can, you know, sign up for a renewal, right? So I finally get through and they're like, oh, no, we're just a branch, so we don't actually expedite. You have to go to an actual agency. The point I'm trying to make is within 15 minutes, we knew exactly what steps to take. We needed to get an appointment at an authorized agency, and we needed to get an appointment on Monday, right? So we call this number, get through to someone. First person tells you.
First person I get on the phone with is like, where are you trying to travel? And do you have a boarding, like, do you actually have a reservation?
A flight.
So you have to have a flight booked in order
to get an expedited appointment.
Or to get an appointment. And so I said, I have a flight booked. And he said, okay, you have an appointment. It could be on Tuesday in El Paso.
Not going to work.
I said, no, do you have anything like for Monday? He goes, I can't give you any other days unless you call back, because I can only give you a date or a time based on one phone call. And I was like, what?
Based on like you get one shot per call?
One shot per call. He said, you can call back and then, ask for another appointment.
Which
and
is
I was
absurd.
Like, what? I said, I explained to them what happened. He said, sorry, so that's the rule.
Okay.
So then I'm like, I get off the phone and I'm like, this is what they told me. They said El Paso. And I said, we're in Dallas. El Paso is a couple hours away drive. That's not going to really work for us. Then we have to stay in Dallas for through the weekend and Tuesday, right? And so I go, all right. We say, okay, we got to get some food. So we go to the American Express, which is the lounge, which is going to close.
Because it's almost 8.
And so we jump in there, get some food. I jump on the phone again. I call back. I'm going to call back. I get another lady on the phone, and she's wonderful. She's like, I tell her the story, and she's like, okay, I got an appointment for you for Monday morning in Seattle. I said, this is what I told her. I'm willing to go anywhere in the world.
Right.
Anywhere in the United States.
Yep.
And she said, okay, Seattle, Monday morning. I was like, perfect. Done. She sets up our appointment. I'm like, this is great. And, the crazy thing, though, is there's not really clear on how long it's going to take for this process. Like, it's all hearsay. Like, you go online, some people say, oh, it took 24 hours. Another person says, oh, it took 2 hours. We ask people in the airport, and like, 10 years ago, I did it, and it took 40 minutes. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, how long does this process take?
Okay.
No one knows this information.
Right. So we book the only appointment available in the entire United States, which is on Monday morning at 9 a.m. in Seattle. Now it's time for us to figure out, 1, how to get to Seattle. And number 2, figure out how to rebook our flights. Because technically that lady shouldn't have taken your appointment because you didn't really have a flight booked. We missed the flight that happened that day.
Right.
And so technically we didn't have a flight that was booked.
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Right.
So she did us a solid. For those of you listening, if you're trying to expedite a passport renewal, you have to have a flight booked.
Right. So we had to basically say, hey, she made an exception, made it for us. And then in the process of from Friday to Monday, we had to book a new flight, right? So that we can show them when you go into the passport. And that's, they were asking for it. Like they wanted to see it.
Like they will not help you if it's not really necessary for you to be expedited. And all morning long, I heard them say, okay, we'll mail it to you in 6 weeks. And people were like, no, I want it today. And they're like, no.
I was listening to other people. I was like, oh my God, this is not going to work. Yeah. Okay, but we're going a little ahead of ourselves.
Okay. So anyways, now we need to book a one-way flight to Seattle, right?
Right.
So we go and talk to another ticketing agency or ticketing agent. And we're like, hey, we have to book a flight. Mind you, our luggage now is still like being held for this international flight that we missed. So the luggage is somewhere in the airport. We need to find that before we can get on the Seattle flight. So this guy says, we have a one-way flight. It's $278 per person for you guys to get to Seattle, but you have to leave in 45 minutes. So you got to take these boarding passes and go straight to the gate. And I said, no, we have to get our luggage. It's downstairs. Can we just like get somebody to bring it up? And he said, no, it doesn't work like that. If you leave the doors and go down to the baggage claim and get your bags, you're going to have to go through like TSA and all that stuff again. And then we can't get you on a flight for another 2 hours. And that flight is going to cost you $1,078 per person.
Yeah. So the rule is, and I think most people know this, but this is something that's important. Like you have to get there an hour before your flight because the ticketing counter stops letting people in or ticketing the flights within an hour. Right. And so us having 40 minutes, because we were already inside the airport, we can just go to the gate and get on.
Right.
But that was not an option for us.
But we need our freaking luggage.
Because we have not figured out luggage,
Yeah.
and you can't move luggage
Right.
from one place to another place.
So we decided
And mind you, sorry about that, but mind you, when we were talking to the guy who was supposed to be customer service in the airport in Dallas
about this flight
about
to
the
Seattle.
about the flight to Italy, remember he was like, no, that's not right.
Yeah, he said they should have put you on.
They should have been able to put you on.
This is ridiculous. I'm going to get on the phone with my supervisor.
So
it's 90 days before you come back. Like, he had a whole different rule.
Right. We're sitting there for this is how I know it's not common knowledge, because the guy he's customer service. He has to go to the manager, talk to someone else, and then they're like, oh yeah, this is right.
Right. So it was like, okay, I didn't really get hyped about that because I figured it was real, and now we already had an appointment, but whatever. So here's the next dilemma. 278, leave your luggage there in Dallas to get to Seattle. Now you have nothing.
Right.
Or you pay 1,078 each to take a flight in 2 hours and get your luggage. So that just kind of pissed me off. Like, okay, I get it, but it sounds ridiculous. It's like 10 times as much.
Right.
So we wound up booking, I think it was a $500 flight the next morning.
Well, remember, the lady hooked us up.
She did?
Yeah. So remember, the guy was like, oh, if you want to take the flight tomorrow, it's going to cost you more.
Okay.
And so then like the lady said, well,
wait.
Yeah.
He walked away for a second.
That's right.
And she heard us. This was another woman that worked for a ticketing counter, or she worked at the ticketing counter.
We will not name this person. Because we don't want them
she
to
did us a solid though, you guys.
Thank
she
you
said,
so much.
here's what I would suggest. I would take the flight that leaves in 45 minutes. If you miss it, they have to rebook you. I said, okay.
Boom.
And she said they will rebook you for no cost. And, that's it. Like, you missed your flight, they'll put you on the next flight, and there you have it. So we listened to her. We went downstairs, got our luggage, and then we tried to fake like we were going to get on. Oh, we missed it. And then the other flight was booked. So anyways, long story, we wind up booking the next flight, which leaves at 8:30 in the morning the next morning, which is now going to be Saturday.
Right.
So now we're stuck in Dallas. We decide that we need to get a hotel. Do we take an Uber? The first hotels are like 15, 20 minutes away.
Right.
Instead, we decide we're just going to stay at the Dallas airport in the Hilton or whatever they had there, which was like $400 a night. Book that, go check in, and literally spend the rest of the night communicating with our friends who are in Italy, getting ready to receive our kids. We're setting up a private driver to pick them up from the airport, because where our friends are staying is an hour and a half away from the airport.
Right.
So we had to set up a private transfer for our girls. And then we had to spend all night long, every 30 minutes, like, around the clock, trying to call the rental car company in Italy, because we had a 9-passenger vehicle booked that cost us $3,000 for 7 days. So that way both of our families could drive around together. And the goal was for us to like all be picked up at the airport. Everybody's luggage fits. We drive. Now we have to transfer our car rental reservation to our friends, and they refuse to do it. It's non-transferable.
It's not transferable. And mind you, like, this is we literally were waking up trying to call like every 30 minutes just to like get
all
in
night
contact,
because we're on Italy time.
We're on Italy time, and calling this customer service is like nearly impossible.
Yeah.
Right. And so
they don't speak English.
They didn't. I don't think we actually ever got through. Remember, I think our friend had to actually go and talk to them, and then they called us, and they were like, "There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do." Right. And so we were just running into these dead ends every single turn when we were trying to find solutions. So
finally we got our travel agent involved. Somehow she was able to finagle it, and they said, okay, we transferred the reservation over to the new couple. So the next morning in Italy, that guy, our friend Joe, takes a private transfer, again, an hour and a half, costs $200 to get to the airport. He gets there to take his reservation, which was ours, now his, and all they have are manual cars, and he doesn't drive a stick. So then it's this whole 2-hour thing. And an extra fee, and it's just whatever. Like, you need to know that when you're renting a 9-passenger vehicle, 1, it's going to be extremely expensive, and 2, it's probably going to be a stick. So that wound up
especially
working
in the
out.
EU. Yeah.
Whatever. That worked out. Thank God we didn't have to pay for 2 rental cars. We just had to pay the difference. And so whatever. The girls made it to Sicily. They made it in their private car, and now they're in Italy with their luggage still stuck in Terminal D in Dallas.
Right.
So there's that.
That's that.
So
and we are now, in Dallas, getting ready to board a plane in the morning to Seattle, and on our way to Seattle, which we both have never been before.
Right.
So
So
now,
randomly, my stepmom, Robin, her sister lives in Seattle. So I just call Robin just to say like, hey mom, this is what's going on. And she goes, actually, I'm in Seattle with Lynn and our family's here. Why don't you guys just rent a car, hop on the ferry and come stay with us for 2 days? I'm like, you know what? That sounds freaking great.
right.
So that's exactly what we did. We land in Seattle in the morning. We rent a car. We actually visited Pike Place Market. Why? Because we were on hold trying to rebook our flights.
Right.
So we're now trying to book the flights that were canceled for Eddie and I to go to Italy. All we are thinking that we have to do is just now get flights for Monday afternoon.
Right.
Why? Because Monday morning is our passport appointment. Once we get the passports taken care of, Monday afternoon through the night, we can leave anytime, just transfer our tickets, right? Well, they're telling us that the airport reported us as no call, no show.
Right.
There you have that. We'll see you in episode 2. All right. So welcome back to part 2 of our Italy trip gone bad. If you missed it, go back, listen to episode 156 because this is part 2. We're at the part where we're in Seattle. We're driving around. We just spent 7 hours on hold with Chase and British Airways. Finally got flights rebooked for Monday at 1:35.
Yeah, I mean, I have been on the phone. My AirPods have run out of battery. I'm like now on speakerphone. It is, and also we're trying to like, oh, this is nice. We've never been here before.
Yeah.
This is great. But now we've got to 2 days ahead of us where we're like heavily anticipating what's going to happen on Monday.
Yeah, so we're supposed to relax and just enjoy Saturday and Sunday and then get to the airport agency or the passport agency on Monday. So here's what we did. We spent, we had our rental car on Saturday evening. We drove onto a ferry, took that across to Whidbey Island in Washington. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
We went crabbing. We had tons of seafood. We spent time with family. It was exactly what we needed to like get our shit together.
Yeah. So we woke up early, and actually, so what was really interesting about Seattle, one, obviously everyone knows about the trees. It's super green in Seattle. My first time there, I thought it was beautiful.
Absolutely.
And then when we get there, like we're oceanfront. Is that the ocean? I think it was the ocean, right? And we are oceanfront, Pacific Ocean. It's amazing, and the cool thing about it is the tide
comes
changes
all the way up.
Yeah. So the tide comes all the way up to the shoreline, so it creates a nice little beach. And then by the time that in the morning, the tide is all the way back now.
Mm-hmm.
So is that low tide?
Low tide.
Yeah, I don't know. All
And
the
now you
terms.
can see your boat sitting on the sand.
Yeah, you
your
can see
crab,
like
traps sitting on the sand.
So what was so crazy is that they said during like in the evening, the water is so high that it's about 10 feet deep, right? And then in the morning, it's like no feet deep.
Yeah, for
It's
like a mile you can walk.
So literally in the morning, I walk out there. We both go out there, and then I walk out there with mom and her sister, and we're going to go check these buoys that are out there with these crabs,
the crab
traps. And we walk out there, and I'm like, this is like brand new to me. I've never heard of this before. Like I thought, fishermen do this. Like you can just go out there and put traps out there and catch crab, which is really cool. So we walk out there, and we're looking at these cages, and there's crabs in there. There's actual like living crabs out there. And I'm from Inglewood. I'm from the city. Like I've never seen anything like this before. So I'm like, this is so awesome that we're walking out here and like picking up our food for the day.
And then we ran into a friend that was also fishing for oysters, and we saw that whole thing. So we had a great time. That's the point of this, right? We had a great time, new experiences, learned new things, ate some great seafood, spent some time with family. And then Sunday evening, our goal is to get as close to the airport or the passport agency as possible for our Monday morning appointment. Right. So we're in Seattle. And Fabiola, the girl's mom, happens to be in Seattle overnight as well. So we say, hey, let's all bunk. Let's get a hotel. Let's book something that's close to the passport agency. So we do. And then we tell her our dilemma. We've got to get from the passport agency right after they renew it to go take the rental car, get to the airport. And she goes, I'll keep the rental car. I'll take it. I'll just drop you guys off at the front. We're like, good. That cut off like 30 minutes for
100%.
us. No problem. That's awesome. Right.
I mean, talk about like the stars being out of alignment, and then all the stars aligning. Like your mom being in Seattle, Fab being in Seattle, like all the support that we need. Because I am in this time. I'm thinking we're like fighting to get to Italy. Like it's like a fight. Like every blow we take, we come back with another blow. Yeah. Every punch, we have another counter punch. Right. And it's difficult, and we're trying to appreciate the moment. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like this weighing anxiety of like, is this going to work?
Yeah. And honestly, I'm like thinking we're going to miss the flight. Like, but we'll figure it out. Right. The only thing I was worried about was it's going to be another 7-hour conversation trying to rebook it. And then are they going to make us pay more? Is this going to cost us $15,000 because we're trying to take a day of flight? Like that's just like stacking up now. It's just been insurmountable amounts of money that I'm just like annoyed about. But the only thing we have to do is get to the kids. Right. So Sunday morning hits, we hang out with the family. Sunday evening, we meet up with Fab, we get a hotel. And then the next morning, which is Monday morning, we're up early, crack of dawn. Our appointment's not till 9. We learned from TikTok that the agency will have a line out super early. Thank you to those TikTok people.
Did all the paperwork, printed it out, had it in envelopes.
We went and took passport pictures. Yep. The girl at the passport, this older lady in the middle of Whidbey Islands, like, oh, honey, you can't wear a white t-shirt. We got to give you something else. Gives Eddie at Rite Aid, this like floral print.
That didn't fit. I had to like just button the first couple buttons up. So on my passport, I'm wearing a borrowed shirt from Rite Aid.
With the tag on it. From little old Helen. Yeah. Anyways, we make it to the passport agency at 7:50 in the morning for a 9 a.m. appointment. They talk to us. We fill out the paperwork. Everything's ready to go. So by 8:30, we're out of there. We're done. And they say, come back after 4 p.m.
Like, no, that's not going to work.
Not going to work. Here's the situation. They said, okay, give us 2 hours. We'll try to have it printed for you. 2 hours, no problem. We skip out of there.
37. Yeah. We have completed the process before our appointment time.
So we get out of there and we're like hopeful. We're like, this is great. She said 2 hours. We go get coffee. We have Fab drive us now to, at 10:17, we walk into the passport agency and I'm happy to wait for 15 minutes, let them know that we're there. And they said, okay, we'll call your name. 10:45 rolls around.
Nothing.
11 o'clock rolls around, which was my cutoff.
Yeah.
I said 11 o'clock is the cutoff. That will give us time to get to the airport by 11:30. The flight leaves at 1:30. That's 11, 12, 1, 2 hours. Nothing can go wrong. We'll be fine if we leave at 11. I go up to the window at 11 and she goes, I'm really sorry, but they haven't been printed yet. Oh my God, how long is this going to take? So I sit down. Around 11:30, I just start crying. I'm just like tears, like no noise, no nothing. I just have tears because now we're not going to make it. Yeah. And so then maybe 11:45, you're talking to another person.
Well, yeah. And then around 12 o'clock, she says, they're printed now. They're like quality control. And I was like, okay, quality I'm hopeful. Control. I'm like, great. Quality control is like, is it printed? Is it correct? Get our stuff.
So I think I cried from 12 to 12:40.
And I have never really felt the amount of stress I felt in that moment in my life.
You guys, the flight leaves at 1:35. Right. It's an international flight.
I'm like, okay, it's 12. I'm like, if we don't get out of here in the next 15 minutes, there's no way we could make it.
Well, I was already after 11:30. We're not going to make it. At
this time, everything's hurting. My shoulders are hurting.
Everything. I'm pacing the hallway.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I'm aging in this moment right now.
Finally, they call us. We are out of there by 12:40. No, wait.
I walk up to the counter again. And I said, I just have to ask you, like, we have a flight that we need to leave. He said, give me 1 second. He looks, he goes, we're only waiting for the stupid cards
to print out. 12:40 we leave.
He runs out, he gives it to us, and we run out of there.
Right. 12:40 we leave. We hop in the car, race to the airport. I drive because I'm the fastest. We get to the airport and I tell Fab, okay, there's a solid chance we're not going to make it on this flight. So don't leave. Don't return the car. Because if we have to stay till tomorrow nights, then we're going to be in trouble.
So we pull our luggage out.
Yeah. So we pull the luggage out. We head up. We run to the British Airways counter. It is 1:00. The flight leaves at 1:35. And there's no one there.
No one there.
No one at the ticketing counter. Why? Because the next flight for British Airways doesn't leave until like 7:00 that night. So they have no reason to have ticketing agents at the ticketing booth. So we're like, okay, what do we do? Is there another counter? There's not one single employee at all in the whole entire airport that works for British Airways. Period. End of story.
Like we literally walk away from the ticketing booth after we went over there, and there's like a pump fake because some people are there like, oh, we don't work for British Airways, they're gone. So then we go, oh, is there a customer service somewhere around here for British
Long
Airways?
story short, we run around the airport. That wasted about 10 minutes.
Right. And then we come back down. We go back to the car where Fab is there. And we're like,
and Fab says, why don't you just leave the luggage? And I go, wait, what? And I'm like, the kids don't have luggage. Like, we were the only ones that were going to get there and maybe salvage some hair products, a couple of clothes to share. And so she goes, it might be your only way. So we go, fuck it. Throw the luggage in the car, run in, and now we find a Clear entrance.
Right. So one of the things that was really cool is through Clear, you can make a reservation to check in through TSA, which
we had.
I never knew that you could do that.
But
so
we did.
I set up the reservation. We missed it because obviously we thought we were going to be there earlier. We walk over to the guy and I'm like, hey, we had a reservation. We missed it. He goes, oh, for 2 Copeland? No problem. Takes us through. We skip like some of the line. We go through and he's like, just go to the end.
This is TSA, you guys.
Yeah, just go to the end and they'll let you through and they'll put you in front of the line. We're walking through and the lady says, what are you doing? You can't come over here.
Yeah.
And so she takes us back out of line. And then I'm like, and she goes to the guy. He says, I'm like, we have to go. Like, the
plane's going to leave
at 1:30. And so she takes us, oh, okay, I'm so sorry. She takes us back into TSA.
Yeah.
Pushes us through the front of the line. We rip off all our stuff. We don't have anything. We have a backpack. You have a backpack.
One carry-on with like
and I don't
nothing.
even like I think I have 2 pairs of clothes in this because we had like heard about all the things about losing your luggage. So we thinking maybe our luggage gets lost and we for 2 days, whatever. So we get through TSA. I get a phone call from Seattle, Washington. I'm like, hello? And they're like, Mr. Copeland, will you be joining us for our flight today? Yes.
Okay, we're running through the airport now, just cleared TSA.
Right.
Now we have to get on a tram, you guys, to go from one freaking terminal in the Seattle airport to the other one where the British Airways is actually calling us on the phone because they're already done boarding.
Right.
And we're the last passengers. Long story short.
Running, like upstairs, skipping escalators and just
cutting people on the tram.
Mind you have a foot that was just repaired.
My foot just freaking had surgery 3 months ago. I've never ran on it since surgery. Yeah. We're running, hauling ass through the airport, sweating. Yeah. Like, I don't even sweat at the gym and we're sweating. And finally walk up and they go, welcome, scan our shit, put us like, right on the plane.
Dripping. And I'm like,
mind you, we had business class. We paid for business class, you know, nice beds that stretch out. They put us in fucking economy, whatever.
Like, not because the cool thing about British Airways is they have first class, business class. Then they have like economy plus, which are nice seats. And then they have economy. We got pushed all the way to economy.
Back of the bus, babe.
Like super tiny, tight seats.
Whatever. We're on the plane. So we sit there.
No.
Wait, go.
So I'm sweating and I go to the counter and say, hey, our luggage is still. They're like, no, sir.
That was so stupid of you to ask.
But I'm just like,
our luggage is in the car with a friend. We know we're the last ones to board, but do you think you could get our luggage? That was the dumbest thing I ever heard you ask.
I don't know. I at this point, anything was possible. We have made
it was not. You were pushing your luck.
We get on. As we
How did you think that was even going to play out?
I don't know. I wasn't thinking.
Embarrassed for you.
I was not asking them to put it on that plane. I was like, is there another plane they can put it on? That's what I asked them.
You wanted our luggage to be like its own passenger?
Well, because they have flights that are the same flights every day. I was
like,
let
it go.
No, I was thinking if there's a way to check them in for the 7 o'clock, at least we get them at some point. She
would have had to park, figure out how to load.
So I get on the plane. We get on the plane, and as we're in the plane, they're like, They say over the intercom, they're like, we are now
fully boarded,
fully
ready
boarded
for takeoff.
Like, sorry, people.
Yeah.
Like when they do that, it's definitely to put you on the spot.
So we sat there in sweat. Now, just like sitting there, nothing to put in overhead because we have no luggage.
We look at each other and go, did we just make it?
Yeah. Well, you said, did we just make it? And I said, don't count your chickens before they hatch. Until this shit is in the air, like I don't even want to talk about it. Right.
Right.
So we taxi, like immediately after we get on, we taxi the runway. And I'm like, wow, we almost actually did this. No shit. We sat there for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
An hour and a half. And then they said, we're having mechanical issues and we're going to have to go back to the gate. So then we go back to the gate and I'm like, Lord Jesus, I swear, like I already know the next flights we're going to have to get on.
Right.
If other people get booked on those, like, whatever. Now our luggage, because we'd been there for an hour and a half, Fab drove from the airport straight to FedEx and put our luggage like through FedEx to ship it back home to our neighbor. So even if we got delayed and stayed an extra night, we were still not going to have any luggage,
the
right?
Luggage was already going.
It was just gone.
Completely different.
So long story short, the flight attendant says, oh, we're going to deboard. Like if we deplane, like this plane's not going anywhere.
Right.
Well, she was wrong. And, a couple minutes later, after an hour and a half, hour and 40 minute delay.
We're ready to go.
Yeah. And then we took off and we were like, oh my God, we're in the air.
Right.
Okay. So now we're on our way to London Heathrow. As soon as we get to London Heathrow, we know that 3 or 4 hour layover that we had is now been eaten up a little bit. So the driver has to be alerted that we're going to be late. The driver still is there to pick us up. Thank God. He takes us to get coffee. We haven't slept. And then we have to go to the other airport in London and hope that flight doesn't get canceled. Luckily, we get on, we text the kids, a selfie, and we're like, guess what? Your parents are on the way. And so that was like the end of that whole fiasco.
And then the crazy thing is like, I'm thinking to myself, wow, I can't believe like this actually worked. Yeah. Right. Like, you think about like, giving up hope and like, even though you can doubt it, like you still got to keep fighting. And I felt like we were fighting
everything,
every
like, turn of the way.
Every turn we were fighting. Like, okay, we got on the flight. We ran through the airport. We got on, and then it was delayed. And I was like, oh my God. And then they found a way to get the plane fixed. So we were in the air.
One thing I do want to point out is when you say we're fighting through, we are never rude about it.
Right. No.
We're never pushy. We're never rude.
That's a big one too.
That is a big one that I think people need to understand. At the passport agency, we knew that there was nothing that we could do. Getting angry with them was not going to help us, right? So like remembering that you catch more bees with honey is always important to me. Like I was going up to the counter saying, I don't want to bother you again. I'm so sorry, but I just really don't want to miss this flight. I know you deal with this all the time. I know it's our fault for being here. I know, because it's not their fault.
Right.
Like they're doing their job. It's not their fault that you fucked up your flight. So don't be rude to people is the biggest advice that I could give you.
And I think people like to transfer like the responsibility to someone else. Like we owned everything about it. Like there were moments where we're like, we didn't know, but at the end of the day, we have
own
to
that.
we have to own it. We have to figure it out.
And that's why I was so pissed at the TikTok comments. I was like, wait a second, we have a fucking podcast where we don't blame anyone. Like so I did say like British Airways turned us down and now our, vacation is ruined. Yeah. British Airways turned us down, but it was also upsetting because British Airways didn't offer any resolutions or suggestions. They also lost our luggage which by the way, 2 weeks later, we still don't have.
As we record this, the kids don't have their luggage.
Still don't have their luggage. They also didn't offer to, rebook our flights. It cost us thousands and thousands of dollars. So there was a lot of things where British Airways dropped the ball to the point where when we were on our 10.5-hour flight and we were talking to the flight attendants, it's not their fault. I shared the story with them. Some of the flight attendants were like, wait, there's a 90-day passport thing. What's the point of having a expiration date? So that's why I was like, why are y'all coming for us on TikTok? Like, these ladies on the plane don't even know that this is a rule. So why is it common sense? I'm using air quotes. Like that's just mind boggling to me, but whatever. The point is we never blamed anyone.
No.
We were looking for suggestions on how to handle it and a little bit of empathy and like some direction. Like within 15 minutes of them not letting us get on our flight, we figured out how we could be better British Airways customer service assistants and offer 5 seconds of empathy and hey, here's what you can do. It might cost you a little bit, but you can expedite it. You got to find an agency, get an appointment. I don't even work for the airlines, and people on TikTok were so happy that we helped share that. So I just feel like they should be trained to be able to do that.
Right. And I think it's possible that when people get hit with that reality that they cannot go on their trip, they don't look for those solutions, right? And so I think that it's just another perspective, because I agree with the perspective that we both hold, that they should have some type of like insight of like, hey, this is what you got to do. Yeah. But let's just say when he responded, he said most people just don't go. Yeah. Like, I think he was honestly saying, like, most people just don't.
Robert, that's not going to work.
Right. And then, so we just were not going to give up on that, on that front of saying, okay, well, I guess we won't go on this trip that we planned for months, right?
And our kids are just going to be in Italy for 2 weeks.
We're going to find a way to get there. I'm sure there's a way. And so I think a lot of like the learnings from this was there's always a way. Yeah. There's always a way. You got to be willing to do a couple things. Like you got to be willing to leave things behind.
Abort your luggage.
Yeah. Like we weren't like held hostage to the fact that we wanted to keep our luggage and we wanted to keep all the things, you know, the new outfits and all that kind of stuff. We were willing to walk away from that.
Yeah. I had no clue what was in my carry-on.
Right. You had, yeah. And the funny thing is that through this process, I think we've learned to do more with less. Yeah. Right. And so now we're like, okay, even the next time we travel, we may not even check bags. Yeah. Right.
No, we will not.
We will not. We will not. But those are things I think you learn through this process. And I think that although it was stressful, we never took it out on anyone. Yeah. Like we didn't take it out on each other. No. I don't think we didn't take it out on any person that worked.
I think we were more loving.
Yeah. I think we were just like, oh my God, I can't believe that we're finding a way through this. Yeah. And I think that when I look back at it, we had really cool moments. Seattle was really great.
Yeah, my mom, thank God, they were there to like make us good food and love on us. And everyone there was 6 people there. None of them knew anything about the passport thing. So I'm like taking tally now, right? Anyways, we get on the flight and now we tell the kids like, hey, we're going to be arriving at this time. We had to set up another private transfer for us to be driven. Right. We pull up at the villa, which is amazing, with our friends, and the girls were there and they filmed us, and it was an amazing
reception
reunion, to see them. And you know, they're in the same clothes because they didn't bring much, and they had 3 days with our friends Joe and Naima and Jaden, and they took care of them and let them borrow clothes. And so now we got to do some shopping. We got to figure out like, okay, what's the bare minimum that we need? We just need some quick hair products. Like, can we borrow a brush? The villa we stayed at in Sicily was absolutely amazing. So I could have never left and been happy, but we did visit Siracusa. We went to where else? Ortigia. We were in Noto. Saw some amazing sights. There's so much history. It's just so beautiful. Sicily's more countryside, but we did spend a day at the beach. That was fun.
And we needed that. I mean, we
ate tons of gelato.
Yeah, we went through war to get there, and it was good to have like this little peaceful, you know, city that wasn't so busy and wasn't so like all over the place. It was literally the pace we chose is the pace in which life was going to go for the next couple of days there. And I think it was a great thing for us to have that after going through all those things. And it was good to see the kids. And it was just like, wow, I can't believe we made it. And now not only did we made it, but we get to relax in this place.
In this beautiful villa.
Where they had a beautiful pool and a bocce ball court.
And a chef to make beautiful meals for us. And
separate bathrooms in our villa.
Okay, so here's the thing. It's like a European thing, which I'm all here for, is that We had our own kind of house on the campus, I'll say, on the property. It was kind of like a guest house, I believe.
Right.
And it was 1 bedroom. There was a living room, a little like kitchenette area, but you had your own bathroom, full bathroom, and I had my own.
Right.
I love that. You have your own toilet. You can get up in the morning, do whatever you want to do. Doesn't infringe on me taking a bath, putting on my makeup. That's like a game changer.
Right.
And then in the main house, which is where the kids stayed, so we had 2 girls in 1 room. Jasmine had her own room and Jaden had his own room. Each bedroom had its own bathroom.
Yeah, it was great.
Full bathroom. And then there was like an upstairs kind of guest house, which is where Joe and Naima spent the night. They had 2 bedrooms.
Yeah.
And like a little living area and 2 bathrooms as well. And so this property was incredible.
It was amazing. And my only what in the world is this? You want to know what it is?
Yeah.
Can the European countries figure out washing machines and dryers?
No.
I don't understand it. The technology, like I said, it's available for everyone, but for whatever reason, and then mind you, it was in Italian, so we didn't understand what it was saying.
Yeah, I think it's user error. I think you're pressing the wrong buttons.
We figured things out. Every single time you wash something, it takes 2 hours, and there's no dryers.
Well, the dryers are built in, so it's a 2-in-1.
No, there was not a dryer built in. It was not.
It's a 2-in-1.
Washed. One time, it washed clothes for 9 hours. A 9 hour, and they didn't come out any cleaner.
No,
and they were soaking wet. Like they weren't like
they
didn't have the spin cycle. Was not a spin cycle, even though it was spinning.
And then you push the button that says dryer, and it doesn't do anything.
No, there's no heat.
Yeah,
there's no heat. There's no gas going into.
So I will say that the appliances in Italy are not the same.
What in the world is going on with the washers and dryers? Because I think was that the same in Greece? I don't even think we tried to wash clothes in Greece.
We did wash clothes in Greece, and it wasn't the best experience.
No.
But
yeah, it's just one of those things. We went to 2 different places where we tried to wash clothes, and it was the same experience there. I was just like, what's happening?
Yeah. So I think we'll end it there because those are the bad things that kind of happen. And then getting into the 3rd episode, I think we'll talk about all the cool things that we did, things that we recommend, what we would have done to maybe extend our stay, and some tips that will help you if you're planning on traveling to Italy or the UK anytime soon, because we got to talk about the Vatican, the Colosseum, all of the tours.
Yeah.
We went on a food tour. So stay tuned for the next episode and we'll tell you all the great stuff, which there were still some hiccups in between, but that's just how we roll, right?
Yeah. Well,
that's how life is.
I think now I'm understanding that international travel is not all is going to be smooth.
Yeah. So if you have never internationally traveled, just prepare that it's not going to go as planned.
Yeah, because you got a language barrier, you got, different customs, and then I think that what we found in Italy, at least, like, is very laissez-faire in a sense, where when things happen, they're just like, oh, well, yeah, it's late.
Yeah.
No big deal.
It'll find you. Your luggage will find you.
You'll find it. Why are you upset about your luggage? Yeah. It's okay. So there's a lot of like little things like that. But that's
why you travel.
The cultural piece of like understanding different cultures. And then I think but everyone was very kind and very helpful at the right times.
Yeah.
And then just back to British Airways, I will tell you that when we fly with them, which we've flown, I think each time, the in-flight experience is great. Right?
We love them.
Yeah, they're great. It's just when you come.
It's the customer service. It's the rebooking of your flight. It's the lack of bedside manner when you know that you're ripping a family apart. It's the blaming. I would have been okay if they wouldn't have said, well, the first lady that let you on should have never let you on.
And they really were blaming American Airlines.
That's a whole nother thing. But the point is like, just have a little bit of like, hey, what should they do if this happens? Right. I train my bakery employees like, hey, if someone ever comes and we don't have a cake for them, that's a big letdown. Here's what we should say. Like, just plan for worst case, right? I feel like you should just have a little bit of training and SOPs around like worst case scennario if you have to deny a family member on a trip. So
do you think there's ever a moment where you like, oh, I guess we're just going to go home?
Never. That was not an option. All the money we spent on that trip, it was not one time an option.
Yeah.
At one point, we sat there and we were like, what's the absolute most we'll pay to get there? And I said $15,000. Like, this is money that's not just sitting around.
Right.
This is just like, I'm going to get there at somehow, some way. We're going to spend that money if we have to get to the kids. Because everything else was already paid for. We weren't getting back the rental car, the cooking class. We weren't going to get a penny back on anything.
Nothing.
So it's like, well, that would be really dumb for you not to spend a little bit extra money to just figure out how to get there, right?
Yeah, there was no scenario in my mind of going home.
No
scenario where
not.
I was like, oh, we got to get a flight.
I was even at one point thinking like, God, I said I wanted to get my pilot's license. This would have all been okay because I could have chartered a plane. Like they wouldn't check your passports then. Like I was thinking all kinds of crazy heist shit.
Well, it was funny because we were telling our neighbor who Dan did an amazing job of helping us and like
watch our house
and receive our luggage when we got sent here. And we were talking and he was like, next time just do NetJets. And I was like, he just kind of threw that out there. And I was like,
he told me
NetJets.
He said, next time sounds like you guys maybe need to visit Montana.
Yeah.
And then he told you next time you guys need to maybe look into NetJets.
And so I look up NetJets and
Dan is 81, by the way.
Dan is 81. And I'm like, what is NetJets? I thought it was a joke. Like, and I looked it up. It's private jets, right? And I guess it's like an affordable way to fly private. And
thank you, Dan.
Like, you know what? We're
doing NetJets. They need to sponsor this podcast.
Yeah. So if NetJets are out there, hook us up.
Find the Copelands.
And we will, promote it like crazy.
Oh, God. So we're going to see you guys in the next episode and talk to you about the fun, cool things that happened while we were in Italy. But thanks for listening. Remember, there's always a way for you to push through. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.